Live from New York, this is WIUR Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, guess who's back? Back again. It's Ball Knowers. We're back again on another, what felt like cold and gloomy Thursday, but it's actually heating up to be a very nice day outside. Welcome back to New Rochelle. Welcome back to Ball Knowers here on WIUR. I'm your host, Robbie Basil, alongside my brilliant team of Cameron Woolley and Luke Dolan. And it's been a very interesting last couple of days here at Iona. Of course, women's lacrosse taking a big victory yesterday, but that wasn't the only team making headlines this week. Here's one of them, ladies and gentlemen. A new hope is here at Iona University. Dan Giroux being introduced as the new men's basketball coach just a couple of days ago now. And, well, with how much publicity it got and how well it was received by a lot of the public, especially the press conference a couple days ago. I was there, and he got a ginormous reception. Great speech by Giroux as well. Now I'll briefly touch on what has happened over the last couple of days. And the big thing on it recently for me was the transfer portal. If you've paid attention to the transfer portal, my apologies. Iona have lost nearly all their players, but it's all for naught. I mean, depending on how you think about it, because Iona have lost players like Day Reeves, like Adam Jai, like Yafet Mundi, just to name a couple. But the big thing right now for Iona is that they've actually signed a player. Yes, chat. We've signed a player. Now, I'm going to make it even better for everybody. He's a D3 All-American. So we're starting off hot at Iona, getting our first big name signing, and he's a stretch big, which we haven't seen at Iona in a actual good one in a bit. So I'll open the floor for you guys. I mean, the whole saga with this, from Tobin being fired to Giroux being hired nearly immediately, and the direction that Iona seems to be going, how intrigued are you for what Iona basketball what they can bring to the table next year, Cam?
I'm definitely intrigued because the standard was clearly set after Tobin got canned. The standard here is you got to get results and you got to get them really early. And like Giroux, he's got a lot of pull. He has a history of player development. He's very well liked in NBA circles, especially in LeBron's little community. Now, some people think that's a good thing. Some people think that's a bad thing, depending on who you talk to. But Iona, especially looking at the Final Four right now, you see Walter Clayton at Florida doing his thing.
Mm-hmm.
This looks like, in the current college basketball world, schools like us, we got to face the music, man. We're not a place where people are going to go and stay for 4 years and play out their entire collegiate careers. They're going to go here to get reps and get recognition so they can go into the transfer portal and climb up the ladder. Dan Giroux, I think, is one of the people who somewhat fits into that mold. Now, again, there's a lot more moving parts to this. There's NIL, there's money being thrown around. But with me, my interpretation of this hire is that it's Iona adapting into the collegiate scene where you're not going to, as a mid-major school, you're not going to be able to hang on to people. You're going to deal with a ton of roster turnover. But honestly, I'm keeping an open mind. He's got a good track record. He seems like a cool dude. I assume he has some kind of plan in place to achieve some form of short-term success, because that's what the bar is here. And I wish him all the best, obviously not only for himself, but for us as a campus, because whenever the basketball team's good, this campus, dude, we go out to the games. Dude, we saw as the season went on, when we started terribly, nobody went to the games. And once we started getting hot, everyone was pulling up to the games.
Although they were just dressing up as seats.
Yeah, and
you remember
it's
Gold
really-
Rush, right? Like when
Dude, Gold
Iona
Rush-
started to
well-
get hot, Gold Rush was insane this year.
I mean, they were also playing Manhattan that day.
Dude,
too.
I
Right,
the
but it's
Manhattan,
the
the
point
Manhattan
still
game
lives
every
on.
year is always a social function.
Yes.
Even people who couldn't care less about basketball always pull up to that game. I went to that
Fair.
game with esports
with
people.
esports, right? Yeah,
I went
I
with-
saw
I
you
went
when
with
we
a
were
few of my
commentating
friends.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just chilling there, dog. But dude, like when this team's good, man, dude, it's a really fun environment. I love being at the games. Sure, I love working the games, like as a cameraman, but being there as a fan, being there in the student section is
It's something else, right?
special. It's very special. And I gotta say, this is just like a little pet peeve I have. So much of this campus is caught up in acting nonchalant and not trying to look corny or weird, because the student section could be so much more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
There
I
could be
get
so
you.
much more juice
Yeah.
in that section, but too many people are worried about looking weird or saying the wrong thing. It's a problem with this generation as a whole, but it's just so.
I mean,
I feel like there could be a lot. Yeah, I'm sorry I went off on
yeah,
that.
no,
tangent, but the
he's
overall,
not
I
wrong,
think
Joe.
Jero-
Yeah.
I think Jero,
Mm.
I'm intrigued to see him. Obviously, I'm in the sports com program. I'm probably gonna run into him a couple times. I mean, like
Both of
I'm-
us are probably. At this
Yeah.
point, yeah.
I mean, it's like I totally skipped out on going to the presser on Tuesday. Well, I had a bunch of homework to do.
Yeah,
so
I think a lot of people did. And the big thing with Giroux, for those who don't know, he was an NBA assistant for nearly a decade now. He started his playing career playing at Richmond and Princeton. He beat Iona in the original Heinz Athletic Center before they had it redone a couple of years ago. But Luke, we'll go to you as well. I mean, what was your reaction to
Well,
Giroux?
you know, it's funny. I actually, I did bump into him this weekend on campus briefly.
Oh,
and
did you?
I had a 2-word interaction with him, and that was it.
Brilliant.
what was the
Well in.
interaction? What did you
Well
say to
in.
him?
No, he goes up and says howdy, and I say hey, and then I just go about my day. And then he says in his press conference that he felt very welcome. You know what? I will take all credit for it. I will take all credit for that.
Yeah, Giroux, I think my initial reaction for me was he's a very down to earth person, but he has a big time philosophy that I really think can work in a conference like ours. The big thing, and we've seen this in the transfer portal for the MAC this year, everyone is signing forwards. So next year's MAC is going to be completely different than this year. Next year is going to be completely different. Remember, this year, it was a lot of guard play. It was a lot of wings, and everyone had like a good wing player. Iona had a couple of them. They had a phenomenal guard duo in Day Reeves and Adam Jai. They had a good forward in Mundi, but really rising up as the big name wing for Iona was Kome Imobor. And the impact he had was seismic for the Gales in the back end of the season. Signing a guy from D3, we'll introduce him real quick. I'll say his name. Maybe he comes on a podcast with us one day. But we signed Toby Harris from Brandis College in D3. So he's the first signing for the Gales. We'll quickly name a couple of other random signings. Siena has like signed like multiple players.
They're keeping a lot of players too.
Siena is now, I believe, I mean, they lost Miles Wilmoth, who went to Canisius. That one didn't make any sense to me. The guy went from Siena to Canisius.
Why?
Who knows? That was the first.
Why would anybody go to Canisius to begin with?
That was the first WTF move of the season. And then started to get even weirder when Maris's apparent interest in one of former Iona players. Like, well, it's
Oh, they want to
what
win.
they're going after a Tobin player who got like ousted by Tobin in the first year. In Jeremiah Quickly, which is a very weird get. And I think right now, if you look at it overall, the top teams in the MAC for men's basketball going to next year, you got to add Siena. They've retained multiple great players, including Gavin Doty, who I think is one of the best shooters in the conference. You have us, kind of. We only have like four. We currently only have 4 players, so I don't know how you could count us right now. another good team right now. You mentioned Marist, you mentioned Siena. You always got to keep Quinnipiac in the picture.
They're losing a lot of players.
They are losing a lot of players. They lost Paulo Tieno to St. Louis this week, which was a big loss for them. And
they've lost
Merrimack
lost Bud Clark to Seton Hall.
To Seton Hall,
That's
yes.
huge.
That is huge.
Another big loss was Amari Monroe, who was arguably, I believe, the best player in the conference. Of course, you mentioned Bud Clark, who I thought was the best guard in the conference. Going to Seton Hall, I think that was a big loss for Merrimack. They lost Brian Atemnu. I keep forgetting how to say his name. But he's like the second best player on that team. The one team that's lost no one, Manhattan.
I mean,
I don't know how they've pulled that out of the bag, but Manhattan have essentially lost no one. Granted, they played in like a college invitational tournament last week, so there might be players entering the portal soon. But there's multiple teams that were in the midfield last year that will be in contention this year. But Siena, the big loss for them was Devin Bradford and Miles Wilmoth, which Wilmoth went to Canisius, which still doesn't. So he's going to Buffalo, which I guess he likes the freezing cold at the end of the day, but who knows? The New York native stays in New York and goes to Canisius. But a lot of these teams losing big name players, that's always been the theme in the MAC in recent years, where everyone tries to make a name for themselves in this conference and then goes on to greater pastures, which fair play to them at the end of the day. Iona right now, like I said, they've made one signing. Siena has made a couple. And that's what makes this really, really interesting, is that Siena have made 2 signings. Everyone else nearly has made 1, with my favorite get so far being Riley Mulvey of Siena, 6'11" transfer forward from Iowa. They signed a Big Ten player. That's not something you see in this conference.
MAC, you see a bench player in the Big Ten coming into this conference?
The Rotterdam, New York native, 6'11" redshirt junior. He'll be exciting. Iona, of course, getting the Durham, North Carolina native in Toby Harris. Will definitely be paying attention to the transfer portal as the season goes on, as Iona look to continue to build out their roster under their new head coach. Ladies and gentlemen, the new hope of Dan Giroux. We'll see what he could do for the Gales in 2025. But real quick, we'll step aside for a moment. When we return, hockey is on the cards. We'll go over the multiple teams' path to the playoffs, along with baseball later on. Stick with us here on Ball Knowers.
This is WIUR Radio.
Hi, this is Anthony Carlo, TV news reporter in New York City and proud alum. If you're looking for a career in media, Iona is the place to be. From internships to real-world experience, Iona's media program is unprecedented. Take it from an industry professional who made it in the biz.
Now back to WIUR, Iona University Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ball Knowers. I'm Robbie Basil alongside Cameron Woolley and Luke Dolan as we welcome you back to another edition of our show. And as per tradition, it feels like at this point, hockey talk is next. We are talking puck today, as per usual. And I'm mainly going to throw it over to these two for the beginning of this segment. The New York Rangers and the New Jersey Devils are both heading towards the 3rd and 4th spot in the Metro. Real quick, my Islanders are out of it. They've lost 6 in a row. And that is that. They have pulled a New York Jets and have all this hope and have completely blew it. We don't score. We don't defend the New York Islanders. And that is all I will be saying on them, because that's all the time they deserve on this show. However, unlike the New York Islanders, some teams have decided to win hockey games this week, which apparently in the wild card was a foreign concept for like a month.
It might still be.
It might still be.
No, it still is.
Is it though?
Still
Well,
is.
I mean, Montreal and Columbus won 2 nights ago.
Yeah, I mean, heck, I mean, the only team that's really sucked have been the Bruins, who've lost.
They're last in the East.
They've lost.
That's wow, really?
Buffalo
yeah.
caught up to them.
Buffalo caught up to them.
Jeez, man, dude, the Boston.
Let's go,
Bruins,
Buffalo.
Dude, the Boston Bruins being bad, yo, I love to hear that, dude. Well,
That's
it's
why I
more
hit
just
it.
like I don't really have that many problems with the Bruins in general. It's just Boston.
Yeah.
They're Red Sox fans. Like I
True.
don't like they're Red Sox fans and they're sad. So like of course I'm gonna
Yeah.
be happy
Well,
about that.
The big theme right now, the East is shaping up to be completely chaos, as it usually is. But there's a couple of teams that have started to maybe find their footing in the Metro. One of those teams, they've won back-to-back games. No one knows how. It's the New York Rangers, who I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Luke, they won last night in a 9-goal overtime thriller with Minnesota.
Yes.
Talk us through it.
So it was the New York Rangers in a vacuum. Well, they actually shot the puck, which is weird. They were really shooting the puck, and then they gave like 3 goals on 9 shots because of bad turnovers, which is Igor faced like at least like 5 high danger chances last night, like at least 5 or 6 of them.
No, what's no?
Standard.
He's also you know who leads the league in most shots faced this year in the NHL?
Oh, let me guess, Igor Shesterkin.
Yes. Really getting shelled every night, and he's still somehow keeping them in a bit. And they are tied for the last wild card spot, but they are not in it as they have played one more game than the Montreal Canadiens, who have a minus 25 goal differential.
They just beat Florida though.
They back to back.
Dude, they're so I cannot get a read on the Habs.
No
No
one
one
can.
I cannot, dude. That team like sporadically develops superpowers like once a month.
Is Bergevin still there? No, right?
No, he's not.
he
been
got
there.
canned a while ago.
Yeah,
But I can't remember any of the French Canadians. Like I don't
they
know.
all go to one place.
Right. No, but I don't know who's who.
The best way I can describe one of the players on Montreal is like Nick Suzuki
Yes.
is the Nico Heischer of Nico Heischers.
That's
If you know
brilliant.
what I mean.
That's absolutely brilliant from you.
But,
Like the underrated like two-way centers who are like really, really good, but like not a lot of people like they're not like super recognized. Like Nick Suzuki is the unrecognized one of the unrecognized ones. Because when people talk about underrated, it's like
recognition.
it's like Sasha Barkov was in there
Yeah.
like
Sasha
6 years ago.
Barkov.
Alexander Barkov. Yeah.
Oh, it's Alexander
Sasha,
Sasha.
the same.
Dude, Boston's in last and they still can make the playoffs. How does that mathematically make any
Because
sense?
the Eastern Conference sucks.
Like you could
Hey, the
Well,
bottom
all
of the
these
West
teams
is
could
no
win.
better. The bottom of the West is no better.
well, it's more defined at least.
True.
It's like Nashville, Chicago, San
Nashville
Jose.
needs to be studied. What the hell is that? Like they
They're
sign all these
old.
big name
They're
players.
old, dude. That's
They're
what happens
old.
when you splurge in free agency in hockey. It never works. I told you this months ago.
You said it on my show.
I said it on your show when both of us came on for free agency.
I like the
That
signing.
never
of-
works.
I mean, I like
Never.
their signing March or so, but he hasn't really been done a whole lot.
March's show has done absolutely
He's
nothing.
been fine. I don't know.
I mean, they
Anyways.
still suck. That's all we need to know. But
back to the range. We
Yes.
finish your point. Did you finish your point?
I mean, I just want to bring this up about the playoffs because I'll get my quick talk in here. If you look at how everything is shaping up in the Eastern Conference, it's nothing short of a question. Like this is what I said this morning when I looked at the playoffs. WTF? What am I looking at? Like what am I looking at? Ottawa? Montreal? What is this? 2015? Are we
Yeah.
sure? Are we sure we're in the right timeline?
Well,
here?
if you want to talk about the right timeline, it could be a Battle of Ontario in the first round.
That's right.
That's good.
Between the capital of Canada and Ottawa taking on the
Maple Leafs.
unsurprisingly good Toronto Maple Leafs. And the only reason they're there is because they're in great form. Florida isn't. Florida's at third.
Dude, Florida's Florida though. They
lost
just
3 in
went
a row.
back-to-back Eastern Conference champs, reigning Stanley Cup champs. That team's got pedigree.
They're
They can afford.
great.
They can afford to slip a little. That's a really good team.
slip a
Like, you
little.
want to talk about teams that are just built nearly perfectly? The Florida Panthers.
The
They
four-
have an identity, and
Yeah, and they're
built
slipping
it.
to just face the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, they're 4 points out of the top of the Atlantic Division behind Toronto and Tampa while having one more game played. Than the Tampa Bay Lightning, they actually can get to be tied at the top of the Lightning after their minor overhaul of players during last offseason. But we'll switch it over to New Jersey, Cam.
okay.
Actually, no, you had one more point on the Rangers. My apologies. Finish
So
your point
they
on
were
the
also
Rangers.
pretty busy this week. They signed their top prospect Gabriel Perreault to his ELC. They signed him. They're burning the first year of his contract now in the remaining 8 games. Well, now it's 7. I guess to provide a spark. I'm not really a big fan of signing it, but like, if you have a chance to get him, go get him. He kind of held some leverage over you anyway, because he could just not. You don't want to ruin any relations, because I think his agent is Pat Brisson. Like, he's basically the Scott Boras of NHL agents. So best to just get him now, I guess. But he killed it at BC, and he was great in the for Team USA. And I'm excited to see. And he looked okay in his debut last night. He said he set up some great chances, which is kind of his game.
I did read an interesting point, ironically, from a Devils fan on Twitter talking about Gabe Perreault. And of course, the initial reaction to burning the first year of the ELC this year, at least in that circle, was, oh my God, the Rangers are stupid. But I did read an interesting point. If you burning the year of the contract now isn't that bad, because it gets them to RFA sooner.
Yeah.
So you can get them locked up long term, possibly before a big breakout where they're gonna demand
more money.
a lot more money to maybe do I guess that's a trend of signing your young players to long-term deals that are friendly before they really break out. Obviously,
Yep.
the Devils did that with Jack Hughes.
Yep. And also, the Rangers signed UConn goalie Callan Tung, who had a really good season for UConn, having a .931 save percentage and a .201 goals against average. And Hockey East, which is easily the toughest conference in college hockey. So I'm intrigued to see that. And they signed him to a 3-year deal that starts next year. And that's basically all I wanted to say. And also, I don't know what the Rangers are going to do. I'm not moved by like anyone on this team. Maybe if Gabe Perreault decides to do something.
They'll be an intriguing team to watch out for over the last couple of weeks of the season. But let's throw it across the river to the New Jersey Devils, who, Kim, I'm not gonna lie to you, they're looking okay.
Yeah,
I think okay is the way to put it, because like I don't know what to expect for them every night, but
Wow, they're at 40 wins and
they've won 40 wins. They have 40 wins. Yeah, they had a great season.
I'll say, dude, it's a lot better. I've only seen 40 wins or more from my team only 4 times in my life. So
That's ridiculous.
it's like I'm welcoming this. I'm absolutely welcoming this. I'm significantly less panicked than I was, say, like a month ago, when there was still a lot.
Or
When there
last
was
week.
still, and when there was still a lot of time for other teams to catch up. But I think every model says that the Devils have a 99.5% chance to make the playoffs. So barring a just abysmal collapse where they lose out all of their games regulation, which I'm not ruling out, and other teams around them or other teams below them getting hot, which I don't really know if that's
not
no.
happening.
Like, I don't know if that's happening, because it's like that every team, like the Rangers this year. I just want to make a quick point about them. They have these stretches where they look like they're finally rounding into form, where they looked like, I remember like around a month ago where I think they were like 6-3-1 in their last 10 games. And it was like JT Miller was really fitting in, and all the panic mashes that Chris Drury did were working out. And we were thinking, oh, wait, this team could actually, like, I thought they were a shoo-in to make the playoffs.
And then they lose like 8-2 to
And then
Buffalo.
they do something like that. And like, I still think out of all the remaining wildcard teams, I think the Rangers still pose a bigger threat simply because of Igor Shesterkin.
How many goals would he have to allow in a playoff series win for the Rangers?
It would be
How
it
many
would take-
goals
also a lot of models are saying that the Capitals are overperforming.
Yes,
And I think
so
dude, I
overperforming.
think a Rangers Capitals first round series, there's a ton of writing on the wall there. I could see that ending up because you know what happens to them with the Rangers when they get into the playoffs.
Well, that would also
They're a really opportunity. I can't blame you for being frustrated. I am validating your frustration. If I was a Ranger fan right now, I would be flipping tables and crashing out too. But it's just from an outsider's perspective, I've seen what the Rangers have done in the playoffs. They have won games that they didn't deserve to win. They have won series that they didn't deserve to win.
Correct.
And they're opportunistic. I give them their credit. I'm just that's a team that I'd be scared of in the playoffs. As a higher seed where there's pressure to perform, I would not want to face the Rangers simply because of, although granted the power play, it's a different team.
The power play does not work.
The power play doesn't. Well, because Chris Kreider isn't Chris Kreider anymore.
That's part of it. But also, we still how can you not find a way to score when you have Artemi Panarin and JT Miller and Adam Fox on the ice still?
That is crazy.
Whoever your power play coach is, that's
sack him now.
Probably.
Yeah, they need to stick a can.
I don't know. I still think it's mainly the players who just don't care.
I mean, I think once you get into the playoffs, you're going to see players care more.
Definitely.
I think, although
If they make it.
you never know, Nika Zibanejad and what type of. I assume Sweden in the summer has some nice golf courses.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
There's got to be some nice golf courses in Scandinavia.
Stockholm. Oh, you want to talk about nice golf? Weird point that I know about this. There's this one course.
Don't get me started on golf.
I know.
Don't get me down that rabbit hole. We'll take up the rest of the show.
The Norwegians know what they're doing with this stuff. Stockholm, Sweden, also a good spot for that apparently, or so I've heard. But real quick, we'll finish up hockey with this question.
I want to make some more points about the Devils.
Go ahead. Sorry. My apologies.
No problem. The Devils lately, I'm seeing them just do what I want them to do. They're treading water. I mean, also, I want to give a really special shout to Nico Hischier, who, according to expected goals above replacement, he is the second most valuable player in the league behind Leon Draisaitl.
Oh, good.
He has scored 34 goals. He scored a hat trick in a road game in the first half of a back-to-back against a very solid Minnesota team. Although after the last few games, that's the jury's out. They won in a shootout.
Correct.
In the home and home, in their home half of the home and home against Minnesota, where they looked good, but some stupid plays and some weird things led to it going to overtime and the shootout. But every 2 points that they pick up just exponentially increases their chances of making it to the playoffs. And at the end of the day, that's all I want to see. The moment Jack Hughes and Dougie Hamilton and Jonas Siegenthaler went down, my cup hopes went out the window. All I want to do is just see this team get back to playing playoff hockey in a consistent way and everybody on the roster getting that experience. Because sure, they're down Jack Hughes and they're arguably their top two defensemen, although Luke Hughes has made a very, very good case lately. Yeah, your boy Thanasis Hughes making he's point per game. Yep. He's point per game in his last 17 games. He's really, and he made a great play on Nico Hischier's goal on Monday. He's looked really good, at least offensively. And to be honest, that's kind of what the Devils drafted him to be, just a very good offensive defenseman, and you compare him with a defensive guy, which is what they've done with Brett Pesce. And Markstrom has looked better. He's kind of rounded into form lately, especially that last game against Minnesota where he made a few big saves at certain points. And if Jacob Markstrom rounds in the form, and if he gets hot in the playoffs, in playoff hockey, all that really matters is just a hot goalie.
Yeah. Oh my God, yes.
And a strong counterattack. But back to my point with Nico Hischier. Ever since Jack Hughes went down and coming off that drubbing in Winnipeg, where they just got blown out 4-0, they didn't even belong in the building. He goes in, scores a hat trick in the next game on the road, and then the next game follows it up with a very strong game with another goal. That's captain material. That's leadership material. He might finish with 40 goals. And he's going to get Selke votes. With him, now that Bergeron's out of the league, Nico Hischier, I think Nico Hischier is going to get, I think he's going to be a finalist for it. I think Nico Hischier may end up getting some Hart votes too.
I mean, yeah.
He's been he's just been so good, and I'm so happy to see his because I've been a huge Nico Heischer guy from the
I know.
second he was drafted. I just love his game. He's a great dude. He's a great leader. I mean, he's very mature, very mature for his age, and also not to mention, Jesper Bratt doing what he's doing, breaking the Devils single season assist record and counting.
That's crazy.
He has
Now-
64 assists.
Now,
64.
Yeah. If
No.
only Jesper Bratt, if he could shoot the puck, would be Jesper Bratt. If he could shoot, would be a top 5 winger in the league.
Absolutely. If only they
No.
can. If only
No.
they can do it all. That's
Now-
always a comment.
Who do the Devils play next
Good question.
They play the Rangers at the Rock on
Oh,
Saturday.
nice.
on ABC?
That will be. That will
Oh,
be a very.
Sean McDonough.
Yep.
Oh God.
And so
Play the
something else-
boost sound effect if we had it once.
So something here that Empire Sports Media just pointed out. And I remembered this, and I was going to, and I forgot. The Rangers have won 2 games in a row.
They haven't won 3 in a row since November, right?
Right.
Oh my god.
They have not won 3 games in a row since November.
It's
So-
on, ladies and
It's
gentlemen.
on.
The 3-game win streak possibility is on. But I want to eventually get to the West because there's one team that we haven't talked about at all this year that's been red hot in the West. But before we do that,
I think we did talk about them once.
Did we?
I think yes.
do you want me to talk about them first?
Yes.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the random team to emerge out of nowhere, out of the West this year is drum. Oh, is there a drum roll on here? No, there's not.
It's just
don't look for.
I- The drum roll, please. The team out of the West is St. Louis.
Yes.
Okay. The Blues. You know that team that randomly won a Stanley Cup a few years ago. Yes. St. Louis is in the playoff picture and have won
Comfortably too.
10 in a row. 10. All the fingers you have, they've won that many games. That's the way you can word it. They've
Unless
won.
you're Jason Pierre-Paul.
Also true. But St. Louis have won 10 in a row, are 7 points clear of the next team, the first team out in the wild card.
You know why we talked about them briefly? They hired Jim Montgomery,
Oh, that's right.
and his first game was against the Rangers, and the Rangers looked really bad that night.
Yes, they did.
Which has been a common thing they've done this season.
I
Looked really
mean,
bad.
This St. Louis,
And I picked them to have a better second half.
you did. That's right. I mean, they're a very interesting bunch they're led, of course, by, let's take a look at their numbers because I love numbers. How do you say this name? Is it Kyrou?
Kyrou.
Kyrou.
Jordan Kyrou.
Still learning names, chat. Jordan Kyrou is 32 goals, 31 assists. He's been great. Their leading point scorer is Robert Thomas,
Yep.
who I actually know who that is, which y'all should be concerned if I know that players from St. Louis because I don't watch them at all. But they've had a good amount of goal scoring, and they're a very weird team. I don't know how they've pulled this off, but one thing you talked to me about this in the beginning, I forgot he was still their goalie, was Jordan Binnington, who's been really, really good
He
recently.
was the goalie for
For
Canada.
Canada.
Dude, he's the Canada.
I didn't
goalie
know
of
he was
four
on St. Louis
nations.
still.
The Four Nations.
I didn't know he was on St. Louis still. I
I mean-
thought he would probably leave because it's the Blues.
I mean,
It was
well,
awful
I mean,
for a
well, it
bit.
depends. What's the state income tax in Missouri?
I don't even know what it is in
I
Missouri.
assume it's pretty low.
Does anyone know what it is? I mean,
This is why we get into hockey.
And
You know,
this is why we-
state income
and
tax.
this
Yeah,
is
yeah. There's no sport where people talk about state income taxes more than hockey.
I mean,
It's like you go up to Canada and you want to talk about taxes.
but sticking on the talk of the St. Louis Blues, they've put themselves in a situation where the Blues are the second wild card team comfortably with only a couple weeks to go. That's not what we would have expected at this point in the season for them to be 7 points clear of, I believe, Calgary for the last wild card spot.
Yes.
Cam, talk us through. I mean, St. Louis?
Well, I mean, there's always one of these teams every year that just gets hot out of nowhere.
Vancouver last year?
Like for no reason and just ends up bulldozing their way into the playoffs.
And then lose.
St. Louis, I mean, most of the time I don't know how much those teams lose. I mean,
Who was it last year? St. Louis?
St. Louis.
This year. Last year wasn't. Would you count
last
it
year-
as Vancouver?
I don't. I don't know who was the team that got. I don't know if there really was a team last year
Vancouver.
that got. No, well, Vancouver
But they
won
weren't
their
supposed to be
division.
good.
Vancouver
though.
won their.
division.
They
They
won
weren't
their
supposed
division.
to
They
be
won
good.
50
Yeah,
games.
I know. Yeah.
They won 50 games. Well, there's always a team every year throughout the season that wasn't supposed to be good, and then they end up
Winnipeg.
being good.
Winnipeg this
Oh,
year.
well,
Or Washington. No, Washington.
A couple years ago, that was the Devils who
Yes.
who weren't really.
Absolutely.
Although the Devils, for like ever since 2019, were always the team that everybody swore was going to break out,
Yes.
and then they never did, and then they finally
because
did.
goaltending or defense was a god
Yeah,
awful.
or their coaching. I don't know.
That too.
Enough about my team that just happens to suck less than the other teams in the East. But with St. Louis, I don't really know. I mean, it's a different cast of players. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not used to seeing them. It's new faces. I mean, back when it was Vladimir
it's-
Tarasenko and
Wait,
Ryan
wait,
O'Reilly,
They're still Braden.
like Alex Petrangelo. I mean, but
David
again,
Perron.
no, they don't have David Perron
No,
anymore.
but like I'm saying from like that time period.
Well,
yeah,
they-
for
Paul
like,
Stastny, like that's
Oh,
still-
that's a good pull.
they
Thank
still
you.
Have, they still have Parayko, but he's hurt. I think.
Parayko's still there.
Yeah, he was on par to like have his career high in points this year, and then he got injured.
Oh, I thought that he would probably be like someone that got
And I mean,
traded.
and Braden Shen's still there too.
Yes,
I mean,
that
again,
one I
it's,
know.
it's a different cast, but it's a really good group of players. They have a good coach. They have good goaltending. And I could see them making some noise. Although the West, I mean, if you look at those first round matchups, I mean,
my
I
god!
don't know. I
Colorado,
mean, I
possibly.
don't know
Who would it be?
Dallas, Colorado in the first round, possibly.
that that's going to be a barn burner.
Oh, it's
In the
Dallas,
first round?
Like I was talking about this with Luke before the show. We were going through the matchups. I'm sitting there. I'm like, I don't know if I want to watch my Devils get blown out in like 3 games by the Hurricanes when I could be watching peak everywhere else. I could be watching Battle of Ontario, Battle of Florida. I mean, whoever
Dallas,
the
Colorado?
I mean, whatever the Washington Wild Card 2 series is going to be, I don't know. That's kind of going to be
Yeah.
like
Hey,
that.
Washington can
Man,
still
it could be
lose
the-
that, by the
it could be
way.
the Rangers.
I mean, it could be the Ra- I
Exactly.
mean, the Rangers are they're feisty. They're cockroaches, dude. That is the best way I can describe
I
them.
want them to die.
Yeah, it's like they're roaches, dude. That team just doesn't die. At least until the Eastern Conference Final.
Oh wow! Good pull.
And in the West you have.
I'm surprised you know what that is.
Oh my god!
I
wow.
know what the Eastern Conference. But in the West you got Winnipeg. You're probably gonna get Winnipeg and St. Louis, which now all of a sudden is a very intriguing series.
Yes.
I mean,
you have Dallas and or you have
where's Minnesota in this?
They
no
are top-
wait
they are-
wait who leads in the Pacific? Who leads? I'm
Vegas.
blanking.
If usual
Vegas.
suspect.
Yeah, Vegas or Edmonton.
It's
It's
Vegas,
Vegas.
then
Okay,
LA,
no,
then Edmonton.
Vegas and Minnesota, and that
LA's facing
Vegas and Minnesota. That could be good.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
depends on if
Min-
Kirill
again?
Kapri- It depends on if
Min-
Kirill Kaprizov's going to be healthy.
Minnesota and St. Louis are tied right now.
Oh jeez, we are.
What a wild
They
card.
are. They're 89 points.
I mean, yeah, like I'm not really excited about the Vegas
Oh,
series.
yeah.
That's going to be whatever.
Oh yeah, and LA Edmonton is
LA and Edmonton, yeah. Well, day
I
ends
don't
in
know.
Y.
yeah, days and
The
one.
day ends in Y. That series is going to go 7 games, and
And
Edmonton's going to
gonna
win.
Oh,
Although
LA
LA has
might have-
been really good.
LA,
The
and
Anze
you know-
Kopitar does not age.
and LA is 28-4-4 at home this season.
They
Oh.
And they have the higher seed
They
at the moment.
suck on the road though.
I know.
They're
But you know-
atrocious.
Well, you know what? If you get home ice advantage,
Very true.
they are currently ahead
And
of
that
the Oilers.
place, I can tell you firsthand. Luke and I can tell you firsthand that place gets nuts
Yes.
in the playoffs, dude. Like say what you will. I mean, Los Angeles is not a normal hockey market, but they love their Kings over there.
Oh my
do.
god.
They love the Kings, and it's not a superficial fandom either, like the Dodgers or Lakers. Like they,
The people, if you like hockey in LA, you are an actual fan, probably.
Yeah. Though the one stat I want to bring up, the Los Angeles Kings are the only team in a playoff spot that have not won 15 road games yet. They're the only one. They're 14, 19, and I forgot how many overtime
Well,
losses.
they
they have.
didn't get home ice advantage then.
But you can't like trust yourself in so AKA that series is going to 7 because LA refuses to win on the road. But the one other team that I was concerned about with their terrible road record, when there's 2 of them, one of them is the Lightning. They're at 500 on the road. The other one is the Hurricanes. They can't play on the road
They
either.
can't. Oh, it's the matchups. they can't control matchups that time.
Apparently,
Well, the Devils also suck at home. So
apparently,
I mean, you
yes.
got Coughing Baby versus Coughing Baby.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you, dude. Although, I mean,
The one thing I'm concerned about, though, I mean, I think we can all agree with this because you mentioned Kirill Kaprizov, sorry, Minnesota. They're the only team in the playoffs right now who I don't
They're-
believe other than Montreal, don't have 20 home
I
wins.
mean, they're just.
I mean, New Jersey doesn't either, but you said they
Their
don't
first round exit written all over them.
They're the
Exactly.
Minnesota. Every year they're a first round
win.
exit.
Minnesota, yes, they are a first round exit every year. I mean, it's just bound to
Like
happen.
Minnesota's always like good but not great, dude. That's like the worst. I'm gonna be. That might be the worst place to be in as a fan, where you're just like good enough to make the playoffs, but you're not good enough to win the Stanley Cup. But like,
Well, you're not
you're-
even good enough to be. It just,
they're not good enough to win a series.
They haven't won a series since like, when was it? Like 2014 or 15?
I think they won in 2015.
Who?
Minnesota. Last time they won a playoff series.
So when was like the beginning of Suter and Parise?
2013.
So it's, I
Or
believe
2012. They signed in
yeah,
2012.
signed in 2012. So I believe it was
Season started
14
in
or
2013
15.
because- Yeah, 14-15 was I think,
14
when they
or
last
15.
won
I
a
don't
playoff series.
remember.
Don't hold me to it.
I, will
I think they may have won a series in the
But who
like
would
in
they
one of
have
the COVID
beaten?
seasons.
Who would they have beaten though? Oh, didn't
They
they?
beat St. Louis in 2015.
No, they beat
So
St.
that
Louis.
was when they were in
Yeah.
the choking era.
Who did they play in the freaking COVID playoffs?
I know they played Vegas one year
Didn't
and
they
they
play
lost in 7.
Edmonton? Like,
No,
was
they
it,
played Vegas one year in the playoffs and they lost.
was it Edmonton? I'm on the right track here.
I know they lost. They lost in the qualifying round.
To
and
who?
The Canucks in the play.
The
in
Canucks?
The play-in.
The play in the bubble.
They were good in the playoffs.
I'm not gonna do dude, that the bubble, the hockey bubble kind of hit.
Kind
I'm
of
not gonna lie.
slapped.
I'm not gonna lie. Hey, I didn't mind.
I mean,
it.
Boston completely blew it for themselves because they won the President's Trophy and were a 4 seed, which is unbelievable.
Oh,
They have not.
yeah.
They have not won a playoff series since 2014-15.
So we're on the right.
Okay,
We're on the
so,
right track.
Yeah, we're at 10 years. We're going on 10,
10
years.
years, which is nearly as long as the entirety of the contracts of Suter and Parise when they were originally signed, which is what the heck. But not the point. The final thing on hockey. Who do you guys think can get really hot and really make some noise in the last couple of games of the season? Really quick. You want me to
I'm
go
just
first?
looking here. I mean, I guess I'm in the Eastern Conference. I'm just looking at upside here. Out of all the teams in the Eastern Conference who I think have the most upside, where like they have a really high ceiling, I think Montreal is the one who has
Oh yeah. Well,
the,
Yeah.
the biggest chance because like they've got gamers on there.
they
Dude.
have ceilings, but I
They,
don't know.
they,
if I don't know.
they have Nick Suzuki, who
I
I,
don't know
mentioned before. They have Patrick Line,
I just don't know.
Cole
what
Caulfield.
Cole Caulfield's
the,
really
and Lane
good.
Hudson.
Yeah. Oh, dude, Lane Hudson. Dude, screw the Calder. Lane Hudson might get Norris votes
Yeah.
this year. He's been amazing.
He's like over 60 assists or something like that too, right?
The Devils drafted Seamus Casey over him, but although I like
What?
Seamus Casey.
Yeah.
The Seamus Casey's a
Why,
good
what?
prospect. It's like it's not a terrible miss, but I mean it's Lane Hudson. I'm
I just
not
don't know
going to
what
get hung
the
up over that.
Canadians' floor is really either.
Their floor is bottom 5 in the Eastern Conference.
Yes.
Their ceiling is Eastern Conference final.
Yeah, very true.
I believe that because like Montembeau's been good. I think
Yes.
if you get a little Yaro Halak 2010 type
Yeah.
run out of him,
where Carey Price was had his starting job in jeopardy.
oh,
Ah.
no, dude, Carey Price.
I mean, I gotta mention the team that I think can get really hot, and they need to. I mean, I don't think they need to, but they're the team that I think I just want them to make it, and that's the Columbus Blue Jackets.
of course.
Yeah.
I
Dude,
mean,
I want Columbus to make it
I-
for obvious reasons.
yes, but I mean, Marchenko's been really good this
Yep.
year. 70 points from Marchenko.
Check out his plus minus too. It's like insane.
Plus 28.
That's like
Dude,
that's
Kirill
like
Marchenko,
that's
that
like
guy-
that's like a top
That
5 in the
guy's
league.
like a superstar in the making. He is so good.
He's a
Eh,
goal
Along
scorer.
with Fantilli, like they're a very
Dude, they've
interesting
got
team to
a
watch out
really
for.
good. I mean,
How's goaltending been for them? I assume it's,
it's Merzlikins, but it's been
How-
Merzlikins, it's been stinky. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's a stinky goaltending.
but they
situation
get.
over
I
there.
think they get. They need to score enough goals. I mean, I don't know how much that's been a problem for them, but I think with how hot they can get, because we've seen that in stretches for them this season. They could be the one to sneak up on the Rangers and maybe Montreal. I don't know. I mean, that's a very weird spot, is some of those teams in the midfield and the wild card. I solely can believe that the Islanders are out of it because they are terrible. You complain about the Rangers. The Islanders have lost like 6 in a row. They've sent themselves into the garbage cans and they just ruined their season. Real quick, Luke, do you have a team before we send it to a final
I
break?
think Ottawa can make some noise.
Ottawa.
They have the goaltend. They have the goalie.
They do have the
Hallmark,
goal.
and they get the fortune of playing the Maple Leafs in the first round.
Oh, God.
potentially.
Although Battle of Ontario historically is Toronto.
But it's Toronto in the first round.
But it's
Obviously,
these Toronto Maple Leafs.
The
Yeah.
Austin Magic, the loser Leafs.
The loser leaves. Well, we will be back in 30 seconds here on WIR Radio. When we return, a quick talk around the diamond with baseball. And we get to roast the Atlanta Braves a little bit. We'll be back in 30 seconds.
This is WIUR Radio.
Hi, this is Anthony Carlo, TV news reporter in New York City and proud alum. If you're looking for a career in media, Iona is the place to be. From internships to real-world experience, Iona's media program is unprecedented. Take it from an industry professional who made it in the biz.
Now back to WIUR, Iona University Radio.
Welcome back. It's time to talk some baseball here on Ball Knowers. We'll start us off with a team that they've driven me nuts already. It's been 6 games. Luke, the New York Mets, right in the middle at 3-3. They are currently behind. Just wait for a second in your chat. The Marlins? Okay,
Yeah.
so the Marlins, I believe, have won 3 of their 4 games via the walk-off, and they're all against Pittsburgh. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Well, they've won one game against the Mets that wasn't a walk-off.
That is very true. I don't know how the Mets have lost to the Marlins. I don't know what year we're in with this stuff at this point, but
2007.
yes. Or like when they were really good with like Stanton and Ozuna and
The Marlins were never
Romy-
really good with that. They had good players, but they were still terrible.
pitching was an anomaly for them. But let's talk about the New York
they had
Mets.
Jose Fernandez.
Yes. I'm saying as a whole though.
Yeah.
It's been terrible. But the Mets, Luke, they took 2 of 3 from the Marlins. What's been your reaction to the first week from the Mets?
So that last game was bonkers.
It was.
Terrible feeling all around. Well, a lot of it was Mark Vientos, who had some really bad feeling miscues, and Tyrone Taylor couldn't see the ball in the air, and he took a bad route. Brett Beatty almost cost the Mets the game. I'm sick of Brett Beatty already.
Mr. February.
Yeah,
Mr. February.
but
at it
he
again.
makes it bad. He makes a bad throw from second where he has to go throw it home. Throws up the first base side of the home plate, which is not what you're supposed to do. And somehow Luis Torrens was able to make a Herculean tag across his body to get it out, which was initially ruled safe, but then reviewed and they overturned the call. And it was actually out, which saved the game. And then in the 8th inning, and then Torrens threw out the runner out at second to end that inning. So he was a big player, and he'd even start the game. And he's been a spark plug recently, Luis Torrens. But they were down 4-1, and then Pete Alonso gets up with a chance and ties the game, which was huge. He's been the clutch hitter so far. And then
as expected from the Mets.
And then both innings went scores in the top of the 10th inning somehow. And then the Mets basically only got 2 runs, but they had the bases loaded with no outs. And then they basically used all their pitchers yesterday too, and so they had to call on Danny Young to try to save the game, and he couldn't really do it. And so they brought in Huascar Brazoban to save the game, and then he eventually did. But so far 3-3, a bit of a mixed bag. The bats have been very disappointing outside of a few people, particularly this guy named Juan Soto. He's been pretty good. He's reached base safely in every game so far this season.
As expected.
As expected, yeah.
They did have one thing. If you were going to get one thing out of Juan Soto, he was going to get on base.
Yep. The pitching's been surprisingly very solid.
That was the one thing
They're
that's
very solid.
concerning is the Mets pitching being good, but the bats not being there. What are we, the New Jersey Devils of baseball now? one thing's great and the other thing is terrible.
Yeah.
Vice
And now
versa.
they get to come home
I
for
got
the home
reference.
opener tomorrow against the division leading Toronto Blue Jays of the AL East.
What the heck?
The
Okay, what the
Blue
heck
Jay-
is the
dude?
deal?
What this is? It's
fine.
April 3rd. This is how you know
It's
we're
April.
really
You wanna know what-
early. This is
wanna
how
know-
you know it's April. You got like the
You've this. First of all, the AL Central, everyone being 2 and 4.
okay. That was expected. I expected that.
Wait, hold on. In the National League West, I was going to bring this up later, but I'm going to bring it up now. All 4 teams we expected to be good, 2 of them are undefeated. One of them has lost 1 game, and one of them has
There's
only
only
lost 2.
It's been a
What the-
dogfight.
And where are the Colorado Rockies?
They're one.
They're
They've
in
actually
the-
won more games than the Atlanta Braves.
What?
Well,
One?
like, can we
Yes.
talk? All right. well, about that, you know,
Yes,
how
don't talk about
All
the
right.
Atlanta
you know,
Braves.
you
I'm
know,
not getting my Yankee segment today.
I'll be quick.
You're
I'll be
you're
quick.
right.
So
after
you know how last week I said it was the Braves division to lose. I guess I must have cursed them in some way, and I'm happy about that. You know,
You meant to do that.
but you know, I'm not. They're 0 they're 0-7.
that's unbelievable.
They're
Isn't it?
0-7. To be fair, they faced the Padres and the Dodgers to start off, who have not lost a game.
That's
Neither
true.
of
That
them
is
lost.
true. They've kind of got the short end of
I
the
was,
stick.
it's just so I literally said it was the Braves division to lose and the impeccable timing there. But you know what? I will still expect them to make the playoffs because that's what they do in Atlanta. They have some sort of devil magic somewhere. They're reserving it. They just haven't called upon it yet. It's just I hope they never win a game again. I really hope they never win. Just personally speaking, I hope they never win. They don't deserve it. And anyway, you know, you can go now.
Yes, Yankees. They're also been weird.
I do not know what to make of this team because going into the season, I thought I'm like, okay, the lineup's gonna suck. No, the moves that they made weren't
But
gonna work
then-
out. And then they broke the major league record for most home runs hit through the first 5 games. Although Milwaukee's pitching just sucks. And
apparently, the thing
yeah,
I said they were good.
apparently Milwaukee's pitching sucks, and the Yankees, they got the torpedo bats. Jazz Chisholm might be a 40-40 player. Anthony Volpe has a 200 WRC plus right now. He's on pace to hit like
You know,
he's also on pace to like 35 or 40 home runs.
maybe the torpedo bats are.
And
they
like,
are
although
unfair
to be honest, like
advantage.
I said this after the loss a couple days ago. I said, like, you know what? I don't mind them losing a few games here and there because I don't want Major League Baseball to nerf us. Like, I don't want these bats to get patched because
I
it
don't think they will. They can't.
because
do that
it,
this
it
season.
gives us so much more upside. Also, not to mention Cody Bellinger.
How's he been?
I mean, he's been all right. I mean, he's not great, not terrible. I mean, no, just
He'll
about
take that.
I mean,
though.
about what I've like expected from him. My real intriguing piece that I'm actually excited for, Ben Rice.
Yeah.
He has been he tore the cover off the ball in spring training, and thing is with him, he didn't just have good raw results. He had really good peripherals. He was hitting the ball and he was hitting it hard. He had exit velocity data. He had good launch angles, everything. And now he's just mashed. Every single game he's mashed. He's hit homers. He's done so much. He's had like an extra base hit in more games than not. He's done a great job. And as a left-handed pull bat who hits the ball in the air, Yankee Stadium, that's going to bode well. Well, if you pull the ball and hit it hard in the air anywhere, it's going to yield really good results, just sabermetrically speaking. But I mean, Ben Rice, I'm really excited for him because that guy, I didn't expect him to do much of anything. And now all of a sudden he's like, maybe if he keeps this up, he's the first baseman of the future. But the overall with the Yankees, I mean, Judge, he's Judge. I mean, I didn't really. I'm still I was never worried about him producing in the regular season. I thought we were gonna see a little bit of a step back. I thought it was gonna be okay. He's gonna hit like 40 home runs this year, which by Judgian standards is okay. But it's not the 62 homers or the 58 that he hit last year. Well, and then all of a sudden he hits like 4 home runs in the first 3 games. It's like, okay, we're doing this. We're
Well,
doing
you
this
know,
this year,
I
aren't we?
want to go back to Ben Rice. You said you had no expectations from. Well, Ben Rice is not Brett Beatty, so he's already better on that front.
Oh my God, that the expectations are already
I
different.
mean, dude, I really like Ben Rice. I'm keeping an eye out for him. If he performs really well, I'm getting his jersey.
We'll see what they can do. I'll be the one that brings up the weird story in the National League or American League. Already brought up one of them, which is the Dodgers and the Padres being undefeated, and yet the Padres are still not ahead in their division.
Well, yeah, the Dodgers have played like more games. I think.
Tampa Bay, let's talk about them. They've played every game at George Steinbrenner Field, and they've actually have a winning record there.
Yeah.
Good. Maybe they'll have like a winning record for more than 2 weeks. We'll see. We mentioned the AL Central being a dumpster fire. The team
and a J ends in Y.
But more than I thought of, because the Whites. Okay, I gotta bring this up because this like caught my eye immediately. The White Sox
They're
have
winning
scored
games.
more than 8 runs in multiple games.
They took a no-hitter into like the 7th inning.
They did,
this
yeah.
week.
They won. They just beat. I mean, they beat the Twins 9-0.
The T's.
The T's, yes, they don't win games, but apparently they're first in the division. Makes
Tied for
sense.
First.
The one team I'm really concerned about is, I mean, there's not really anybody, to be honest, other than like the Braves, but they've played the 2 hardest teams, so give them a little bit of a chance. I'm very concerned with Milwaukee's pitching. You mentioned Milwaukee's pitching. They've been god awful. Shout out Nestor Cortez, because I've been waiting for this for a week. He was atrocious. Like Zach Wilson numbers, but baseball. It's like that's the type of comparison we're making today. Nestor Cortez got absolutely rocked by the Yankees in his return to the Bronx, and I know you were probably salivating over this.
We were calling the Iona game.
Oh,
During that. We were
yeah.
calling the Iona game. And like I was every single break, I was looking at her. It's like, jeez. It's like it was the 4th. It's like I looked over you. It's like, oh yeah, Judges hit 3 homers.
Yeah,
it's the 4th.
it was like,
he
oh.
came this close to hitting a 4th.
Yeah,
It was just like he shot one to right field, and of course, anything hitting the air and right field of Yankee Stadium, it's like, but it just barely hit the top of the wall.
By the way, I gotta bring this up. 2 series to definitely watch out for because they caught my eye immediately. The Dodgers are playing the Phillies. Let baseball commence. And the one other one, if you like misery, the Yankees are actually facing a very good pitching team in the Diamondbacks this
Yeah,
week.
dude, I've learned this the hard way.
Bring
They
it.
have a really good rotation.
Yeah, I said that.
You
I mean,
did.
like
With Gallen, Kelly, and Burns.
Yeah,
Like,
Not in that order,
The first game, it was a bullpen meltdown. But again, like in the 8th inning, Mark Laird Jr., I'm just calling that game a wash because it's like in a high leverage, in a real like high leverage situation, in a high leverage game, you're not throwing Mark Laird Jr. in there. The guy you're going to is Luke Weaver or Devin Williams.
Yeah.
Like that's the guy. Like that is one of the 2 guys you're going to in that spot.
Yeah.
Or Tim Hill. I
Yeah.
think Tim Hill has.
Well, I mean,
I think Tim Hill has earned the designation as a real high leverage reliever for the Yankees. That guy, I've never seen Tim Hill egregiously blow a game.
You know-
I've seen every other Yankee closer do it. I mean, well, Luke Weaver, Luke Weaver had Big Christmas.
yep.
Clay Holmes, I mean, I'll write you up a list. Aroldis Chapman, but
I will say
but like I'll say, that even
Next.
Devin Williams came this close
he's
on opening
paternity
day.
leave.
He came this close on opening day. Tim Hill, never seen him do it.
You know-
Never. And he's like, he's 35 years old and he throws junk, junk, street junk, but it gets outs.
Yeah.
I love him. I love Tim Hill.
That's how I feel about Max Kranick, who's been a baller so far.
Oh yeah,
It's
a
two
guy who I
appearances.
didn't know who he was, and he's actually been good.
He came in his first appearance, bases loaded against Houston with 1 out, facing Jordan and Christian Walker, and he got them both out.
Brilliant.
And then he pitched.
Tim Hill's on my all-star team.
Then he pitched 3 innings in relief, and the game where the Mets lost, and he didn't give up a run. He picked perfect innings, by the way, too. 3 perfect innings. But
Well,
they still lost.
I wish we could talk about baseball, hockey, and more for as long as we want to, but unfortunately, that is where our show will end today. Thank you guys so much for joining us here on what's hopefully going to be turning into a beautiful Thursday afternoon here in New Rochelle. For Cameron Woolley And of course, my other partner, Luke Dolan. I'm Robbie Basil saying so long. We'll see you guys next week. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
Take care.
Live from New York, this is WIUR Radio.